I am the most rigorous mathematician in England. I believe only in proof. I do not believe in God. I do not believe in goddesses. I do not believe in any form of supernatural intervention. And I am the man who cannot explain Srinivasa Ramanujan. He said a goddess came to him every night and wrote mathematics in his blood. When he was dying, 32 years old, in a small room in India, he described 17 mathematical functions and said she had shown them to him in dreams. For 92 years, no mathematician could understand those functions. In 2012, the proof was finally completed. The functions were correct. Every property Ramanujan described, every claim he made, correct. The mathematician who completed the proof said that we found the formula explaining one of the visions he believed came from his goddess. I have spent my life believing only what can be proved. I cannot prove the goddess existed. I cannot prove she did not. My name is G.H. Hardy, and this is what I witnessed. In January 1913, I received a letter from a man I had never heard of. The handwriting was unusual. The paper was cheap. The man who wrote it was a shipping clerk in Madras, India, earning £20 a year. I almost threw it away. Something made me look closer. The letter contained page after page of mathematical formulas, results I had never seen before. Some of them looked like the work of a madman. Others looked too beautiful to be true. I spent that evening with my colleague Littlewood going through them, and slowly, the room went quiet. Because what we were reading was not the work of a madman. It was the work of someone operating at a level that I, after 30 years at the peak of British mathematics, could not comprehend. I wrote in my notes that night, "They defeated me completely. I had never seen anything in the least like them before." His name was Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was born on December 22nd, 1887, in the south of India. His family had nothing. At 15, he taught himself mathematics from a single textbook. He was self-taught. It contained thousands of theorems with almost no explanations. He proved each one himself, alone, with no teacher. Then he started finding theorems that were not in the book. He failed college, twice, not because he could not do mathematics, but because he could not make himself care about anything else. He took a job as a clerk stamping shipping documents. He worked 8 hours a day. Every night after work, he filled his notebooks. I arranged for him to come to Cambridge. He arrived in April 1914. He had never left India before. He had never experienced a winter. England in wartime was not kind to him. The food, the cold, the distance from everything he knew. But the mathematics was extraordinary. For 5 years I worked alongside him. I have called it, and I choose this word carefully, the one romantic incident of my life. Not because of anything sentimental, because I have never encountered anything that remotely resembled it. He could look at a problem and see the answer, not derive it, not calculate it, see it. I would ask, "How do you know this is true?" He would say, "I know. That is not mathematics. Mathematics requires proof." Ramanujan frequently could not show the path. He only knew where he stood and where the answer was. I tried to teach him formal proof. He understood it. He could construct proofs when he chose to, but the proofs were always translations. They came after. He would see the result first, then work backwards to demonstrate it to others. The proof was not how he found things. It was how he explained things he had already found. That distinction destroyed every rational explanation I tried to construct for what I was watching. And he was right. Hundreds of results. Almost all of them correct. Results that would have taken me months to find. He had simply seen. I asked him many times where they came from. His answer was always the same. He told me a goddess came to him every night and wrote mathematics in his blood. He was not speaking in metaphor. He meant it, literally. While he slept, a red screen would appear before him. formed from flowing blood. A hand would emerge and write mathematical formulas, relationships between numbers he had never consciously considered. He would watch the hand move. He would become completely still. And when he woke, he would write down everything before it could fade. I am an atheist. I have never believed in gods or goddesses. I did not believe a word of this. I also could not explain the formulas by any other means. I tried every rational explanation I could construct. Extraordinary intuition, unconscious processing, a mind so trained that the steps had become invisible, like a chess master who sees the board without calculating every move. All of these are possible, but none of them explain the specific results. Their depth, their reach into mathematical territory that other mathematicians would not explore for decades, their connection to physics that did not yet exist. Trained intuition extends what is already known. It does not see what cannot yet be known. I never found an explanation I could believe more than his. There is another explanation for Ramanujan, one that does not involve a goddess. It holds that his results came from his unconscious mind, from years of obsessive practice so deep that the steps became invisible, that the answers arrived fully formed because the training had internalized every pattern in mathematics. I understand that explanation. I have considered it for decades. But consider what it asks you to accept. That a 25-year-old shipping clerk in Madras, working in isolation, with no contact with any research mathematician, with no knowledge of what had already been discovered in Europe, trained his unconscious mind to produce results that the best mathematicians in the world would not find for another 50, 60, 80 years. That he trained it to see structures in mathematics that did not yet have names. That he trained it to solve problems that had not yet been posed. I cannot accept that. Not because I believe in goddesses, but because I believe in honesty. And honestly, I do not know. In 1917, his health collapsed. The cold and the poor food had destroyed him. Tuberculosis. A sanatorium. He was 29 years old. I went to visit him one afternoon. To make conversation, I mentioned the taxi that had brought me. The number 1729. Rather a dull number, I said. Just small talk. He shook his head immediately. No, Hardy. It is a very interesting number. It is the smallest number expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. He was right. 1729 equals 1 cubed plus 12 cubed. It also equals 9 cubed plus 10 cubed. He was lying in a hospital bed, dying of tuberculosis. He had not calculated anything. He had simply known. He told me once that every positive integer was a personal friend. He had known 1729 for years. In 1919, he returned to India. In January 1920, 3 months before his death, he wrote me one final letter. He described 17 new mathematical functions, which he called Mach Theta functions. He said they had come to him in dreams. I read the letter carefully. I had no idea what he was talking about. Neither did anyone else. He died on the 26th of April, 1920. He was 32 years old. After his death, his papers were sent to Cambridge. I examined them. I passed them eventually to a colleague named Watson, who intended to study them. Watson grew old, and his interest faded. When Watson died in 1965, the papers were left in his attic, a complete mess covering the floor, due to be destroyed. They were not destroyed. A mathematician named Whittaker found them in time and sent them to the Wren Library at Trinity College. There they sat, in a box, unknown to almost everyone. In the spring of 1976, 56 years after Ramanujan's death, an American mathematician named George Andrews was visiting Trinity College. He was going through boxes of old papers. In one box, he found a sheaf of 138 pages in handwriting he recognized immediately. It was Ramanujan. The pages contained over 600 mathematical formulas, all from the last year of his life, all written during those final months when he was dying in a small room in India, filling sheet after sheet with numbers according to those who were with him. None of these formulas had ever been published. None of them had been sent to me. They were formulas Ramanujan had kept, or perhaps had not yet had time to send, before he died. The discovery was described as the mathematical equivalent of finding Beethoven's 10th Symphony, 600 formulas, written by a dying man, in his own handwriting, without a single proof, without a single explanation of how he had found them. A man who had been dead for 56 years was still producing new mathematics. Mathematicians spent decades trying to prove the formulas correct. Most of them were. The deepest ones, the Mach Theta functions, the ones Ramanujan said came from his goddess in his final dreams, remained the hardest to understand. In 2002, a Dutch mathematician named Sanders Weggers finally understood what kind of mathematical objects they were. In 2012, Ken Ono at Emory University completed the proof. Everything Ramanujan had described in that final letter, the letter I had received in January 1920 and not understood, was correct. Ono said we proved that Ramanujan was right. We found the formula explaining one of the visions that he believed came from his goddess. No one in 1920 was talking about black holes. The concept barely existed, and yet those functions, the ones written by a dying man who said a goddess gave them to him, can be used to calculate the behavior of black holes, the most extreme objects in the universe. Objects that were not part of human understanding when Ramanujan wrote them down. A man who died at 32 in a small room with no university degree, describing physics that would not be discovered for another century. I am a man who believes only in proof. I have proved many things. I have spent my career insisting that feeling, intuition, and belief are not evidence, that only proof counts, that only what can be demonstrated counts. And I am the man who spent 5 years watching Srinivasa Ramanujan produce results so deep, so accurate, so far ahead of everything that existed, that a dying man's letter about a goddess turned out to describe the behavior of objects in the universe that no one in 1920 had yet imagined. When I heard what Ken Ono had proved in 2012, that Ramanujan's deathbed functions were correct, that they described black holes, that the goddess had been right, I thought about the day I almost threw his letter away. Something made me look closer. I have never known what that something was. I cannot prove the goddess existed. I cannot prove she did not. In 30 years of mathematics, I gave myself a score of 25 out of 100. I gave Ramanujan 100. I still do not know where the results came from. He said a goddess came to him every night and wrote mathematics in his blood. I have no better explanation.